This week on the Angus Report, an update on NAFTA renegotiations.
March beef exports set a record for monthly value. We share highlights from the recently released March export data.
How can you have a more efficient breeding season this year?
And we visit with the Animal Agriculture Alliance Stakeholder Summit moderator to discuss lessons learned from the three-day event.
This is the Angus Report. Welcome to the Angus Report. I'm Bob Cervera.
And I'm Clint Mefford.
Our top news this week. USDA Undersecretary of Trade and Foreign Affairs Ted McKinney is optimistic about NAFTA modernization. He says trade talks with Canada and Mexico are likely to wrap up soon.
Well, I know and respect that there's a lot of angst out there on how NAFTA has been going. And I understand that, and that's just. Anytime we have uncertainty, when margins are so very low, it causes angst and, in my case, gray hair. But I'm bullish that we're going to land that okay. Now, it's my colleagues with U.S. Trade Representative Office that are on point. But I believe we're going to land that in a reasonable fashion and probably fairly soon. All three countries, I think, want to get it done, all of them for different reasons. But I think we're going to land that okay. And I think we're going to come out much stronger than we were before. The biotechnology chapter of NAFTA is all but settled. It's terrific. It sets a new template on how we look at new technologies. The sanitary phytosanitary chapter is a very important one. So if we can just look at those two alone, we can look and say the NAFTA modernization has been worth it. Now we just got to land the big ones on dairy, poultry, and some other things.
McKinney also shares how a rewritten NAFTA might specifically impact the beef industry.
Well, I think to some degree what goes on with dairy can affect the beef industry. I think some of the things on biotechnology which provide the feedstocks, corn, meal, alfalfa, things like that, and the transference across the border of some of those calves and critters, I think is going to make for a improved NAFTA, and I think is going to lift up the beef industry. Plus, I think there's a lot of Canadians that love and eat American beef, so let's just ship more finished product up there as well. So I think it's going to come out pretty well for the beef industry. At least that's our hope.
The Undersecretary was a speaker at the Animal Agriculture Alliance Stakeholder Summit this month. Visit animalagalliance.org for more event information.
International trade is incredibly important to the beef industry. In fact, exports accounted for 13.6% of total beef production in March, which is up almost 1% from a year ago. That's according to the U.S. Meat Export Federation's recently released March export data. The numbers also show that beef exports set a monthly value record at $693 million, up 18% from March last year. The strong export value is a clear indication that international markets crave U.S. beef. March beef exports to Japan were steady with last year's pace. That's good news considering the 50% tariff on Japan's U.S. frozen beef imports. The steep tariff took effect in August and expired April 1st. South Korea continues to be a bright spot for beef exports thanks to the Korea-U.S. Free Trade Agreement. The Asian country's appetite for steak continues to grow, and export value to Korea was a whopping 37% ahead of last year. Taiwan is also a rapidly growing market for U.S. beef. The country bought 61% more U.S. chilled beef this year compared to last year. Visit usmef.org for complete export results.
It's time to think about your breeding season. University of Missouri reproductive physiology professor Michael Smith offers advice for producers who are looking to begin or enhance their estrus synchronization program.
It's important to remember that there's a huge reproductive management advantage of estrus synchronization, which is you increase the number of females that conceive early in the breeding season. Getting pregnant at the start of a breeding season allows her to calve early, which gives her calf more days to grow by the start of weaning, or by the time of weaning. The other big advantage is it gives that cow more time, or heifer, more time to return to heat by the start of the next breeding season. There are some criteria that we feel that heifers and cows need to meet to be good candidates for a synchronization and AI program. For heifers, we feel that they should reach about 60% to 65% of their mature body weight by the start of the breeding season. Another thing is when the pre-breeding exam occurs and the veterinarian gets a reproductive tract score. This is a 1 to 5 score, with heifers that score a 4 or 5 being cycling, and heifers that score a 3 are in that transition period, usually within about 30 days of starting to cycle. We advocate that at least 50% of your heifers score a 4 or 5. Any of these heifers that score a 1 or perhaps a 2 should probably not be included in a synchronization AI program. The other thing we suggest is that the average days postpartum of the cows to be synchronized be 40 to 45 days or more. And we also recommend that we not synchronize a cow that's less than 20 days postpartum. Usually there's not much opportunity to get them to respond well. But those are some criteria which, if applied, will increase the probability of having a successful synchronization and AI program.
Consult your local beef extension for more information on how you can implement an estrus synchronization program.
Wildfires raged across Oklahoma this spring and cost farmers and ranchers millions of dollars. The fires killed an estimated 1,600 cattle, burned 348,000 acres, and destroyed or damaged 2,100 miles of fence. Oklahoma State University Cooperative Extension estimates that the wildfires cost cattle operations more than $26 million in the Sooner State. Let's break those costs down. Fencing was the most costly loss, racking up an estimated $16 million price tag to replace and repair. The livestock killed or destroyed as a result of wildfires cost an estimated $1.4 million. That includes veterinary costs and factors in the reduced value of surviving injured animals. But the cost doesn't take into account the emotional toll that losing livestock takes on ranchers. Burned facilities and corrals saw $6.3 million worth of damage and destruction. Emergency feed costs $1.6 million, and burned pasture and hay costs $660,000. If you'd like to donate hay, make monetary donations, or apply for wildfire relief funds, visit okcattleman.org.
Although it sure doesn't feel like it for many farmers and ranchers, the rural economy is showing signs of improvement. The monthly Rural Mainstream Index measured the economy at 54.7 in March, which is above the growth neutral threshold 50 on a scale of 0 to 100. This is the second straight month the economy is above growth neutral, which hasn't happened since 2015. Farmland prices, farm equipment sales, and retail business continued to be below the growth neutral threshold. But the confidence index, which measures expectations for the economy 6 months out, grew to 58. That's up almost 6 points from February's 52.4. The confidence index hasn't reached 58 since June 2013 and indicates bankers have a growing economic optimism.
Rod Schoenbein is the Angus Foundation's new development director. He started with the foundation in January and is off to a running start.
My major responsibilities with the foundation is I look at it as threefold, I guess. First of all, to educate, to try to make people aware of what the foundation really is, what we stand for, and what our mission statement is. And then get people excited about what we're doing at the foundation. Show them some of the things that have value to not only the Angus breed, but to the youth, and also to some of the fun research projects that are being funded by the foundation as well. And then just flat out asking people to participate and be a part of the foundation, and whether it's monetary, whether it's gifts in kind, those types of things. Just flat out asking them, and then of course just doing the stewardship, just thanking the folks and letting them know that their efforts are sure appreciated, not only by us at the foundation, but a lot of the participants that reap the benefits of some of those programs as well.
Schoenbein also shares what producers should know about the foundation.
First of all, it's their foundation. A lot of people think that the foundation is out here soliciting and gathering funds and gathering money, and it's just sitting out there for scholarships. And that's really maybe a little bit of a misnomer. We're out here for all Angus producers, and it's really their foundation. So We'd like for them to know that and take an active role in not only participating in some of the events and some of the things that we offer, but then also knowing that they can take some pride in not only the young men and women that come through the scholarship program, but also those educational programs that we put on as well.
Visit angusfoundation.org for more information about all the foundation does.
We check in now on the latest cattle market news with our market update, brought to you by Cattle Facts.
Hello, I'm Patrick Linnell with the Cattle Facts Update. The feeder cattle price seasonal from spring into summer is a reliable pattern. In all but 2 years since 1991, feeder cattle prices have increased from spring into summer when evaluating the CME Feeder Cattle Index. The lows typically occur between March and April, with the highs occurring sometime in July through September. The long-term average increase is roughly 14.5%. Given the spring low of 134.5 per hundredweight in the first part of April, this would imply a summer high of 154 in the cash market. The same seasonal pattern can also be said for the feeder cattle futures as well. When looking at the August feeder cattle contract, the January-February high was just under 156. Historically speaking, odds are roughly 70 to 75% that the highs will be taken out sometime in the months of July or August. With the seasonality of the cash market also suggesting prices moving to similar levels, signs point to the seasonality in the futures market working as well. With the August and September feeder cattle futures currently in the mid-140s at the time of recording, the seasonality would strongly suggest there's upside potential to those contracts. Tight supplies outside of feed yards due to dry conditions driving cattle to be placed earlier in the year will be supportive of both the cash and futures markets going forward. The estimated feeder cattle and calf supplies outside of feed yards for April 1 was the smallest in 2 years and the fourth smallest in recent history. The timing of the summer grass cattle runs will be determined by precipitation levels throughout the Great Plains region. The Southern Plains will need to see continued rain over the next several weeks to have an adequate grazing season. For the Angus Report and Cattle Facts, I'm Patrick Linnell.
To learn more about Cattle Facts, your leading source for beef industry market information, visit cattlefacts.com. After a break, we visit with a center of the plate specialist who shares how effective team training can sell more beef.
The Angus Report will be back after this.
A lot of hard work and care goes into each beef animal that's processed. So how can cattlemen be sure folks on the other side of the business approach their jobs with the same commitment? Brian Jareggi, a center of the plate specialist for Sysco San Francisco, talks about how he trains his team to sell more beef. In food service distribution, a center of the plate specialist is there to support his staff through tools and training.
We do Beef 101 classes, we do farm to fork type of meat labs, which we go out to the different plants and teach them all the different aspects from farming to feeding to processing and breaking down the animal. Then I ride around with them and see customers on a day-to-day basis, meet with chefs, do cuttings, yield lab tests, that type of thing.
They help combat ever-evolving sales objections, walking chefs through everything from economics to sustainability claims.
You know, we've got people that come out of the tech industry that are selling, computer parts or whatever. They have sales experience. So we've got to take them through every step. We've got to teach them from the beginning. They go through about a 3-week process at Sysco University, at my company. And then from there, we go even more in depth. So we can take any type of salesman that has the drive and teach them the basic knowledges of the meat industry and let them go sell successfully.
Ongoing training increases confidence and sales in tandem.
It's all about the knowledge nowadays. You've got to be able to be credible in front of the chef. Knowing the brands that we have, knowing how to cut them, a lot of times knowing how to cook them in the different applications. It's where the more successful people do better when they have more knowledge.
Right now, Jareggi says beef marketing is the envy of other proteins, which are trying to catch up. The best way for beef to stay ahead begins with the ranchers.
Keep producing high-quality cattle. The high quality, one of my mentors said, never lower your quality, you'll never have a problem.
That's a message that works in all segments of the beef community. Juregi has almost 40 years' experience to share with his team. He says the marketing and sales tools he gets from the Certified Angus Beef brand help make his job easier. Visit blackinkwithcab.com and angus.org for more information. Back with the Angus Report after this.
Tyne Morgan, the first female host of the U.S. Farm Report, recently served as the Animal Agriculture Alliance Stakeholder Summit moderator. She shares why the summit is so valuable to a wide range of animal agriculture professionals.
Yeah, Animal Ag Alliance Summit, I went to my first summit last year, and I was just amazed at how the summit's able to bring agriculture together from different walks of life. It's not just animal agriculture, it's also Soybean Association and other feed users that are in the room. But just not only to have the conversation and connect, but then also take that home. You know, when we look at animal agriculture, and oftentimes the industry is beat from every which way from activists and extremists, often producers are left with, well, how do I respond to that? What do I say? And so at a conference like this and a summit like this, to have that conversation and give them real tools that they can then take home and use is not only valuable, but really I think that's what it's going to take in order to help this industry continue to thrive.
Morgan also emphasized that it's still critical for farmers and ranchers to share their story and connect with consumers. Doing so can combat the misinformation and cherry-pick science anti-agriculture activists spread.
I think you do a simple Google search and you can see why it is so vital that farmers and ranchers are out there telling their story. The amount of misinformation about things that they do on a daily basis. It's not farmers and ranchers right now that are telling that story. It's people that are outside of farming and ranching and are really using fear to strike a chord in consumers and use that as fear-based marketing to get them to buy their product. And unfortunately, it's putting animal agriculture in a bad light. I mean, here at the Animal Ag Alliance Summit, we've seen how efficient animal agriculture has become. And becoming more efficient in producing these animals, we're able to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And I mean, the carbon footprint has gone down tremendously. These great things and these great stories that aren't being told. At the same time, the ones that are telling the information are kind of cherry picking the science that they want to use. And that's what's difficult for animal agriculture. A lot of them have deep pockets that are cherry picking the science that they use. And so combating that can be difficult. But from what I'm hearing here at Animal Ag Alliance Summit, it's really, don't let that frustrate you. Still continue to share your message and tell your story. The best thing about farmers and ranchers is we're very honest people. That's how we've built our business. That's how we've built this industry. And every farmer and rancher I visit, I mean, they're a very honest individual. And I think that's really what's going to win out in the end when people do finally realize that some of this fear-based advertising has no merit. Some of the claims that they're making really does not stand any ground. And then you talk to a farmer and rancher that their story hasn't changed, it's been the same, and that you can trust them. I think that's really where we can combat some of that fear that's coming out from these individuals that have very loud voices, unfortunately.
Up next, a Kansas rancher tells us how she shares her agriculture story with consumers. The Angus Report will be back after this.
Kansas rancher Debbie Lyons-Blythe discusses the importance of telling agriculture story with consumers. She illustrates how she connects with people she'd never meet in small-town Kansas.
I was born in the cattle business, and I grew up on a cattle ranch that raised registered Angus cattle near Manhattan, Kansas. And my mom is the owner and operator of Lyons Ranch at Manhattan. And my sister and I were pretty important labor crew, workforce on the ranch. So I learned from an early age that everybody, a full family can be involved in. It didn't take boys or girls, it took them both. My husband and I moved here in 1989, and we now have 5 teenage kids. They are 4 in high school, and 1 is a sophomore at K-State. And they're all very, very involved, owners of a lot of the cows, and you know, have signed loan papers as well to own a bunch of that. I've always wanted to tell the story of farming and ranching. I think that a lot of people don't have that opportunity to visit a ranch. And so social media and the internet has provided the opportunity to bring the ranch to them. And I got involved about 3 years ago when a relative who is 1 generation removed from this land where we homesteaded here, where our family is, 1 generation removed from this land, was asking questions about feeding her young kids beef and milk. They were worried about the hormones and the antibiotics in those 2 products. And I realized that if she, being that close to the land, doesn't know the answers to those questions, there's a lot of people that are much further removed that really need to have those answers. And so I felt like I really have the responsibility to tell that story. I'm lucky enough to be out here. I love this area, and I'm so proud to be a rancher in the Flint Hills of Kansas. And I don't think that if you haven't ever been here, you don't understand what a beautiful place it is and how important it is for us to be here taking care of this. And so it's our responsibility to tell that story. So I have a Facebook fan page for our cattle ranch, and that began through my blog that I was having people make comments that they would like different ways to connect with me. So I decided a Facebook fan page would be a good way, and I have a large number of people that are not from a farm or ranch that follow me on Facebook now. My blog is a great opportunity to tell the story about farming and ranching and what we do here every single day. The internet has given me the opportunity to connect with people that I would never meet in small town Kansas. One person comes to mind is a fellow in California who has never been to a farm or ranch, but is all about lifestyle and living a very healthy lifestyle. And he specifically has really commented a lot on my blog and enjoyed my Facebook page. In addition, he's created a Facebook page that talks a little bit about living a healthy lifestyle. I love the fact that he's interested in beef. He thinks that beef is an important part of a healthy lifestyle, and he has also used stories about me and tweeting from the tractor in presentations that he's done. So I think that's a neat connection that I've made, and I think that's a really positive one. I would say that it's very important that farmers and ranchers take 10 minutes a day, post a Facebook status what you're doing that day. Tell about why you do certain things as your Facebook status. Take a few pictures of things that you do during the day, and just to post those on Facebook and explain what's going on is a wonderful advocacy tool. I think it's vitally important that farmers and ranchers take time to tell their story, because there are laws and regulations being passed and decisions being made in kitchens every day that are misinformed. And if we don't get out there and tell our story, then there will be so many regulations passed that are inappropriate and that limit what we do here.
You know, Clint, we were talking during that I Am Angus segment, and we both agreed we need more people just like Debbie.
Well, she set such a great example for everyone in the beef industry.
She absolutely does. What an advocate. If you enjoyed that I Am Angus episode, you should visit angus.org to watch more. And that's all for this week's Angus Report.
We'll return at this time next week with more cattle news and highlights. Don't forget to tune in or set your DVR.
And in the meantime, watch more Angus Report episodes on Angus TV's YouTube channel.
We'll see you soon.